So, good morning, everybody. My name is Tatjana Luethi. I'm the executive producer of our upcoming fourth conference called Together. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about culture, specifically about how to create a conscious culture within the business and the workplace. So, joining today in this conversation are Runa Bouius, an entrepreneur, conscious leadership consultant, and catalyst, a speaker and author. And Runa is also on the board of advisors and a co-producer of the Together conference. Hey, Runa, how are you this
Hi, good
morning?
morning. I'm really good this morning. Thank you.
Great, great. And also with us today is Josh Allan Dykstra, co-founder of the Conscious Capitalism Chapter in Los Angeles and co-founder of the Work Revolution and also author of Igniting the Invisible Tribe. Welcome, Josh. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thanks.
Thanks for being with us today. So both of you will be speaking at the upcoming Women's Conference Together, which is next month on September 13 and 14 at WeWork in Hollywood. So before we get started with our conversation, I just want to do a quick invitation to both of you to tell our listeners, who are you and what is it that you do professionally? So Josh, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, like you mentioned, I'm kind of an author and a speaker kind of a person, and I also manage a consulting practice where we help leaders and entrepreneurs create astonishingly great places for people to work. And we do this through positive psychology and helping people emphasize their strengths and what energizes them most. And also we bring in a lot of focus around kind of business trends and the future of work. So it's really a wonderful and enjoyable kind of work that I get to do, which I feel very, very grateful about.
Great, thank you so much. Runa, let's move over to you. Please go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself and what it is that you do professionally.
Yes. Well, as you said, Tatjana, I am an entrepreneur from Iceland and a former CEO. I focus particularly on conscious leadership in this bigger picture that Josh is talking about, which is the whole culture of a business. And like Josh, I do that through speaking and writing and designing and facilitating programs. And my special focus is really on you could say mindful leadership, or what we call conscious leadership, which is helping the leader, him or herself, to dive into their own growth and development in order to be able to create this vibrant culture that we are going to be talking about here today with you.
Right. Great, thank you. So, okay, then let's go right into it. And just to contextualize slightly, last week, Runa and I had a conversation with Jean Sullivan, principal of Sullivan Coaching Programs, where we explored the topic on purpose, which is pillar number 1 in the conscious capitalism diagram. So we specifically talked about what does purpose have to do with business. Then we had a second conversation with Kent Fraser. He's also co-founder of the Conscious Capitalism Chapter in LA, principal of Paradox Edge, and the director for learning and development for Lieberman Research Worldwide. So we had a conversation around the topic of stakeholders and explored, what is a stakeholders orientation and what are the benefits of conducting business from that mindset. So now we're going to talk about culture, which is pillar number 4 on the diagram. Let's start out creating a little bit of a context. And Josh, I know this is right up your alley. So why are you so passionate about redefining culture at work? What do you believe in?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a good place to start. When you look at, there's a couple different ways to look at this, of course. One would be through the lens of just kind of the macro level statistics of the workplace. So when you look at things like engagement, many people have probably seen the last State of the American Workplace, a report issued by Gallup, which said that 2/3 of people in the American workplace are disengaged. So we've kind of got that statistic that's floating around. If you look at things like passion in the workplace, it's even worse. The last report that I saw from Deloitte measured 89% of people not passionate about their work.
Mm-hmm.
So so statistically at a macro, like at a bird's eye view, it's pretty terrible actually.
Right.
that most people don't get to do work that's fulfilling or meaningful or that they're passionate about or that they can actually engage with. So that's, I think, a pretty big issue, and it's one of the big problems that I'm kind of committing to help solve as much as I can.
Right.
More personally, though, I would say that about 385 days ago, my wife and I had our first baby, and in 17 years or whatever, when she wants to find a job, I don't want her to have to come into a workplace environment that's as terrible as it is now.
Mm.
So that's kind of the driving force behind what I do.
So you're really talking about the human happiness factor, as I call it, at the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yeah, and the I guess sad truth, I guess as it is now, is that the amount of engagement in your work has a huge impact on your well-being outside of work. It's generally considered the biggest factor, actually,
Right.
in how much well-being you experience outside of work, which makes sense because, you know, where do we spend more of our time than at work? Nowhere.
Right. Exactly. That's why I think it's so important to really be able to merge our passion with our purpose into our profession. Totally hear you on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say are the qualities or the attributes that define a conscious or a healthy business culture? You know, that is
Yeah.
different from, let's call it, a traditional culture.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways to look at this. Of course, I'll offer a few thoughts from my perspective. Um, I think that there's a number of things that I've been studying that seem to be consistent across all great places to work, and so I'll just kind of name the three things that I see. I think the first thing is a sense of clarity. So there's a strong sense of I know exactly what I'm expected to be doing, and now this happens across very hierarchical, top-down kinds of organizations, all the way into self-managed organizations. There's a sense of, okay, I know exactly what I'm contributing here. So I think that's a strong component of a healthy culture. I think there's also, the second thing would be probably a focus on humanity. I think there's, in all great workplaces, there's a focus on the human being as a human being, not a piece of human capital, not a human resource, but actual, how do we help this person bring their full self to work every day? And the deeper an organization goes into that space of creating a container for people to be their full selves at work,
Right.
the more we see this kind of conscious organization start to emerge. Then I think the third thing would be a sense of impact. And so what I mean by this is that people have a sense that the work that they do is actually making some sort of tangible impact on the world or on society.
Right.
And it actually goes both ways. This is kind of the interesting thing about organizations, is they're not just it's not just a container for people to go and make an impact on society. That organization, of course, also makes an impact on them. It makes a big difference on, because we spend so much of our life there. This is the perfect opportunity for us to create a container that's not just focused on outward impact, but also the inward impact of how do we make people the best versions of themselves, which I believe an organization is a perfect vehicle to do something like that.
Right.
But of course, many of them don't see themselves that way today.
Yeah, no, totally. And the other thing that I hear in everything that you said right now, it sounds like the underlying foundation that needs to be in place is alignment across all of that, right? Between the individual, or let's say the employee, and the company.
Yeah, I think that's insightful. I think that's a huge part of it for sure.
Now, you also said, that business really is one of the driving vehicles to make a difference. Runa, I know that you always talk about that you really see that business, is a major change agent to create a difference.
Right.
How can you talk a little bit about that in the context of creating a new kind of culture?
Yes. I think we don't always realize the impact that a company can have. We are seeing many new companies, say like Tom's, that is creating a huge impact globally. The culture of some of these new companies is very different from the traditional cultures, and the way, just like Josh is saying, the way that they foster or help their people to thrive and express themselves and innovate is then transferred over to doing good in the world for those that don't have the same possibilities that we have. So the impact is on them personally, internally. It's on the success, including the bottom line of the company, but it also spills out to the bigger whole. And we can't expect governments to solve everything. And we know that business is one of the most powerful force on the planet. Some people say that business controls governments. If that's true, why not leverage that power to do good? If the governments don't have the power, don't have the wisdom to direct their own country culture in a sustainable and healthy way, why not use the power that we have through companies that become often global? But we could also just think about it locally, here in our own local community. Who are the people, who are the companies who are leading positive change within our own neighborhoods, in our own cities? And I think, as a CEO in Iceland, I was so young when I started, and I stumbled into creating my business, and I didn't know any of these concepts we are talking about today, and it wasn't in the discussion. But I realized now, looking back, that I did create a culture that was in alignment with this. And so I think for me, it's always important to be able to make sure that your people are growing and evolving, that they are happy, they are using their gifts and talents, and they go home happy and excited, because, like Josh said, that goes back into their homeland, that goes back into the community again. So a healthy company culture will always create more positive impact and happiness rippling out, whether it's close ripples or ripples that go all the way through the planet.
Yeah.
And what I heard right now, when you said the government can't solve it all, right? I really heard the message of, each one of us, be it on an individual level or be it on a business level, which is basically just a scaled up version of what we stand for on an individual level, is all about really taking self-initiative and taking the responsibility and the ownership to move away from victimization of what's currently so, and just complaining about it, and taking responsibility to actually lead and bring about the change. That's what I hear. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the power of the individual is so much bigger than we think or believe. And that's why it's so important to foster that empowerment within individuals in culture or business. I look at really leadership starts with leading ourselves, and it's a practice. And for me, the container of a business is a beautiful practice place. It's like a practice run, because so many things happen when we work in teams, and we have to be innovative. It's such a complex arena to be in business, and it gives us an opportunity to really grow and evolve and pull on the best of us that can then be used to do good in the world. So we should never underestimate just one person. We are seeing this over and over again with new initiatives.
Right. So we did talk a little bit about the effects on employees at the beginning with Josh when he talked about engagement and passion. I was kind of wondering what the effects and impacts are on the business. And here's what I mean. How does a healthy conscious culture contribute and or positively impact the success and results of a company, right? That very often gets debated, where somebody's like, well, I don't have the time to deal with my employees. I just need to get my, stuff done, right? I need to get my goals achieved. So what would you say to somebody like that? What are the actual, results that have been the successes that come when your employees are happy and engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's tons and tons of research around this too. Exactly to your point. I think a number of kind of ideas, resources come up for me. One would be just around employee engagement itself. There's if you want to look at that, that's been pretty well researched over the last decade, and it's pretty dramatic. The impact that if we study and how do we engage our employees, and for if listeners don't know what I mean by that, engagement is about being at your job because you want to be, not because you have to be. It's about somehow being emotionally committed to the work you're doing. And if it turns out that if you're emotionally committed, if you're engaged in your work, you get all sorts of boosts from a business perspective, and all of the things that you want, things like customer loyalty, productivity, profitability, all of these things go up fairly dramatically. And all of the things that you don't want actually go down, things like quality defects and safety incidents and turnover and absenteeism. These things go. So huge impact from a business perspective there. And we can see the estimates from a place like Gallup, who estimates these things. Just the cost of disengagement, they estimate the cost of people not caring emotionally about their work for the American kind of economy between $450 and $550 billion every year. So it's pretty dramatic there. The other place that I would look, there was a book that came out a number of years ago called Firms of Endearment, which is a pretty, I think, interesting case where if you measure, the authors, they measured what they called firms of endearment, kind of followed these more conscious principles in running their organization. And over the long term, they outperformed the S&P 500 by nearly 10 times. So this is probably not is this the best way to get the boost in your next quarterly return? Maybe not. Is it the best way to actually do what your organization is supposed to do and flourish over the long term? Absolutely.
So it's a long-term investment. Generate employee satisfaction. I guess we can talk about retention, right? Employee retention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but even the short-term things get a boost. So you look at the comparison between these firms of endearment and the S&P 500, even over a short period of time, like 3 years, and they almost doubled the returns. So, this is not like a 50-year long. We're not talking about that kind of long-term, but it's not. This is the quarterly kind of earning model is part of the issue here, I think.
Right. Runa, what would you say are the benefits of really investing in the culture, into the people of a company, from your experience?
I think it's what you said. It's really a choice. Do you want to create a long-term sustainable business, or are you just looking at the short-term bottom line? And culture is not something you go out and buy or you implement overnight. It's a process. It's something that needs to be cultivated. And many companies now are literally appointing a special culture builder, or there are many different names for it. I'm sure Josh has all these different interesting, innovative names. But the CEO could be the one who leads the culture, but culture is really the spirit of the company. It's really the arena that we play in, where we place the structures and the systems and the mechanism that go into running a business. But it's really the container. And to keep any spirit alive, we have to nurture it and nourish it.
Right.
And that is, and that means we have to take care of everybody in that ecosystem. Coming back to the stakeholders, we need to treat them like human beings instead of robots.
Right.
And so it really comes to what I often say, Tatjana, is humanizing business. and to spark and kindle that spirit. And culture is really also the business's expression of their values, of their principles. It is, through their beliefs. It's a way of showing what we believe in and actually embody it. So it's not just something we put up when we start the business. Nice to have these nice values, but then we forget about them because we are so busy running the business. It's really about the behavior. It's about the habits we create. It's about the rituals that we have as a community within the company. It's about the celebration of our successes. It's about coming together when there are failures or sorrow. So it's really like a community that we are nourishing. And it's very much in alignment with the feminine principles that are coming in. It's the mothering aspect of sustaining the child, which is in this case is the business.
Absolutely. And I like what you just said, where you said, it's really defining when you launch a business, it's all of this effort goes into it, which is what I resonate so much about, in the UX principles and practices at the very beginning, when we launch an idea or a project or a product, you go through the brand attributes, right? What is it that you stand for as a company? What's the culture that you're creating? What's the personality? What's the emotional benefit? What are the tangible results we want to bring forth through the company? So it's defining all of that even before we launch the business. So I love how you articulated that, Runa.
It's that, and then to actually embody it. Because so many companies have the good intentions and create these values and benefits up front. Some don't, but many are doing that now. But then the big test comes is, can they embody it? Can they inhabit it?
Right. And so this is part of what we're going to be doing at the Together conference. So there will be various panels where we are going to have conversations just like this. And we're going to be having the workshops as well, where we actually show, how do you do it? How do you integrate it? So we're pretty much at the end of our episode today. So what I want to do really quick is just repeat the date of the conference. It is called Together and will take place on Saturday and Sunday, September 13 and 14 at WeWork in Hollywood. It is a 2-day conference where women will learn the skills to thrive and not just survive in today's changing marketplace, where we get to merge passion, purpose, and profit for personal fulfillment while making a difference and the contribution to the greater good. And the format of the conference is designed to inspire purpose, clarify direction, and take effective actions through panel conversations. And as I mentioned, we're going to have hands-on workshops around how to implement conscious leadership, how to implement conscious business structures, new go-to-market strategies, and also marketing practices. So for more details, please, everybody who's listening, go to schooltogether.com. School is spelled with a K, SKOOL, together.com. I also want to take an opportunity to thank our sponsors. We have Whole Foods in Venice, WeWork in Hollywood, then Runa Bouius. We have Vidra Media, AIGA Los Angeles, and all of our supporting media partners are also listed on our conference website. So that's pretty much it for today. Josh, Runa, thank you so much for being here with me today. And we will continue this conversation in about 3 weeks from now, next month. So any final words from both of you? Anything inspiring?
Yeah.
Just gratitude for having an opportunity to dialogue about this, because I think it's one of the most important aspects a business, a new business and existing business needs to be looking at today to thrive.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would add that, I think it's good to remember that the way that work works now, it's not always been this way. that the rules of business were written by people that were just like you and me, no smarter than us. And if we want work to work better, we can do it. We just have to collectively decide that's what we want. And so I think together we can create a better future for everybody.
Right.
Really said.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much. And we will be seeing you both in 3 weeks at the Together conference. Have a good morning.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.